Nobody has ever explained the retained process properly to me. And I can't believe that nobody has actually explained exactly what they want to do and why they want to do it. And there is no way that I would have shut them down if they had 3/4 of our time, if not more, unproductively. This just doesn't make sense.
That quote came from a head of talent acquisition, a senior TA leader who'd spent her entire career shooting every recruitment agency down who pitched her retained services. Every single one. Until she went through Louise Archer's program. Now, Louise has spent over 20 years on the front line of recruitment. And before she built Retrained Search, she proved the retained model for somebody else. Inside AirSwift, a global energy staffing business, she and a colleague built a retained permanent recruitment function from scratch. 0 retained recruitment when she started and got it to 12 million a year in retained perm revenue by the time she left. She didn't start Retrained Search because she had a theory. She started it because she'd already proved the model worked for somebody else and wanted to teach the rest of the industry how to do the same. Today, she's worked with over 1,500 recruiters from 31 countries in every industry and niche you can think of. Now, what I wanted to talk about was that the industry is changing. The data is undeniable. The biggest contingent agencies in the world are getting hammered, yet exec search firms are growing. So why is the majority of our industry not making the switch?
Hayes and your Robert Halfs and your Manpowers are all down, and your Hydrix and Russell Reynolds and your Shreks are all up. And that's no coincidence. They're providing a service that can't be replaced by AI, not just a service, but multiple services. It's the trusted advisor, it's the partner, it's the advising on market trends, conditions, individual nuances of a senior executive through an interview process that no AI would ever pick up, and that's why they're not being affected by it. Their revenues are not affected by it.
Retained Search is at the heart of every single recruitment business that is growing right now in 2026. The data is clear. So the question isn't whether Retained Search works, it's whether you've implemented it in your business. So this is a brand new episode of the RAG podcast with Louise Archer, who built a brand new Retained Search function for AirSwift and got it to 12 million a year in retained revenue before leaving to teach the rest of the industry how to do this. Louise, welcome to the RAG podcast.
Thank you very much. Thank you for having me on. I've seen quite a lot of your podcasts. You're an expert podcaster, so I'm excited to be here. Grateful. Thank you.
I hope you judge me on that at the end of the show, right? Let's see if I deliver today. But
no judgment.
I appreciate it. Well, look, it was only a couple of weeks ago we recorded on the opposite end, me being a guest on your show, and that was fun.
That's it.
I never.
It was.
I genuinely have. I've not actually done many podcasts as a guest, so it was. Whenever I get invited, I do enjoy it. It's always a bit strange doing most of the talking, but loved it, and I hope people got value, and I hope people get value from today.
Yeah, they did.
What I like about
some really good feedback.
What I've enjoyed about the conversation with you is we definitely see the world, I think, the same way. Our businesses are very similar, and I think we're solving two different problems that link to a very similar audience. So let's get into that. Before we get into any of the story, the past, let's just give, if people don't know you, give us just a bird's eye elevator pitch of who you are, what you do today, and then we'll go back and talk about how you got here.
Yeah, sure. Quite simply, I run a firm called Retrained Search, and we help recruiters transition either fully or in part from a contingent recruitment model to a retained model, and then help them go further if they want to into kind of C-suite and growing their businesses as executive search firms.
Yeah. Wicked. And that business is how many years? It's 7, 8 years old or so?
Yeah.
2018 after my research?
It wasn't born in its current format, so it kind of, as you know, it evolved quite a lot. So in its current format, it's going to be about 5 years old.
Right. Awesome.
Yeah.
Well, let's get into the story. Obviously, Retained Search is something that our whole industry, I think, is pretty obsessed with. It's some people think it's only for exec search consultants. Some people think it's out of reach for their sector. I've had loads of people tell me, you won't get a retainer in my world. I'm like, all right, cool. I'm not sure I believe that. Limited belief for some people. I can honestly say in recruitment, I never sold a retainer ever because I was always contract. Never did a perm retainer. But I've got clients that we probably share that are getting big retain fees. And I believe my whole business, even though it's not a recruitment business like yours, we charge up front for our services. So it's like, I see the value in, getting paid for the time you're putting into the project. But talk me through how you got into Retained Search, because I believe was it AirSwift? Take us back to going from a contingent recruiter
yeah,
to a retained recruiter yourself? What was the story there?
yeah. Well, funnily enough, it was the same for me. All of those things that you just said that people think about retained, like, well, that's exactly what I thought, and all the other stuff as well. Like, didn't really know what it was, didn't think it was probably going to be anything that had anything to do with me. Sort of looked at it from afar and thought it's probably smoke and mirrors and just a lot of stuff dressed up as something more expensive. Maybe a little bit of envy and thinking it'd be nice to get really big fees and be retained instead of, but thinking that it probably was out of my reach and, not a pool that I was ever going to swim in. And so, I mean, nobody, if you said then that I'd be here now, there is absolutely no way in this world, no way I could have predicted that this is, what would have happened and what I'm doing now. So it was a surprise to me, as much as anybody really, that a happy series of coincidences and obviously a lot of hard work. We don't get where we get without,
Take us
putting the
back to
work
going
in.
from what made you go, like you're a contingent recruiter at Swift, I believe. Tell us a story about that transition and where that came from.
Yeah, so what happened was I had been all contingent, staffing, secretarial temps, contracted, a lot of contracts. And I was actually doing contract at the time in the US. I was working on the ExxonMobil account, staffing the mega projects in Houston. No, in Houston.
Oh, you were living out there, right?
Yeah. And when I came back into the UK after about 3 years in the US, the position that they put me in was in the perm team, working with a wonderful guy, and I always shout him out because, and lots of other people along the way, called Matt Howell,
right.
Because he was such a fundamental part of my journey. Because basically the revenue in the perm division of the business was really unpredictable. It was very difficult to forecast. The difference between the actuals and the forecasts was so different. Little did I know at the time that there was due diligence going on for a transaction, a big transaction, and BDO were in basically auditing. At the time, I had no idea what that meant, and it didn't really occur to me to try and find out. But what was happening was they were valuing the different sections of the business, and the permanent section of the business was valued really low because of this difference between the forecast. They couldn't predict the future revenue. That was the problem. Mm-hmm. And so the contract arm of the business, however, was beautifully valued. And so the decision was, do we kind of let the perm division kind of wind itself up and not really focus on it, or do we put some attention on it? So Matt and I at the time were tasked with this project, which at the time was called Most Money Soonest. Like, what a nice name for a project. It's like, let's just make some money. But basically what they wanted us to do was see if we could, in their words, shore up the permanent revenue so that we could get some commitment from a client that would mean that they could much better predict the fees that were going to come in.
Is this UK based or back into the US?
No, your EMEA.
Right.
So UK and Europe. Well, I think we were in Europe at the time. And so that's what we set about to do. I didn't really know what that was going to involve, but Matt said, I've had some experience of retained work. Like, we've got to get retainers, basically. That's what we need to do. And I didn't think that was possible. I was like, God, Jesus Christ, no. But what he basically had me do was look at every single client across the perm business and go and see them. And we went to go and see them together, get meetings with all of these, the most senior people across all of these clients that we could, and go and find out whether what we were doing was working for them, whether they were happy with it, whether they were getting the service. And the justification was, if they weren't, then we can solve it. And here's how we're going to solve it. And if they were, then great, we're going to carry on doing that, but this is what it's going to look like. So it was really simple, really simple. And at the time, It was no more complicated than that at all. So we just set about doing that. I mean, it was okay. There was protective people in the business going, no, you're not going to go and see my client and all the rest of it. And the internal kind of sales versus delivery that you get, because we were a real sort of tasked with a real sales force, but we started winning retained projects. One of the first ones we won was with a client, and the first project they commissioned was for director level positions. The total fee was something like £140,000, split into 3 stages. And for me, that was the biggest fee I'd ever won. And I couldn't believe that he'd just agreed to 30%, a third. I could not believe it. And yet there I was presenting the proposal, walking it through and closing the deal with Matt next to me going, say this.
All right. So you had someone who had the brains behind it.
Yeah, he was going, like, now you need to do this now. Now you need to do this now. So he was so supportive with me. And then once you've done it a few times, you start to realize that actually it's not rocket science. It's no smoke and mirrors. It doesn't need to be difficult. And so that's what we did. We basically gradually moved all these clients, not all of them, but at the time that I was there, the vast majority of them. And to this day, the perm business survives. Not only survives, at the time it was about 5 million globally. I mean, I caught up with Ian Langley, the chair, maybe last year before, and he was like, yeah, it was 12 million globally now, but all retained. And there was 0 retained revenue before. And now all of it's 100% retained. We basically then started to roll that model out across the other regions, across the US, and then, in Australasia, and then across every region.
In terms of the ability to sell retainers and deliver retainers, like, you're talking about existing customers, right? If you're going in and you're taking an existing client base that's already used to you as one thing.
Not always. Right. That's where we started. We then started winning new ones because we went after their competitors because they had the same problems. But yes.
But taking an existing client, then just, that's obviously something that I think like almost every person listening to this could put that situation in their own world where, like, they've got an existing client base that know them for being contingent. You've almost, is that not you're reinventing yourself a little bit?
Well, I didn't. We didn't change anything. The whole time, for a good like year and a half, if not 2 years, there was no mention of retained on the website. There was no retained marketing literature. Marketing team was far too focused on the contract business. We were just this tiny little ugly sister that nobody really cared about in the perm business. And so, no, we didn't reinvent anything at all. So nothing changed.
I guess I'm just running through my head as if I'm listening, right? So is it a case of they're already giving you a role because you're an existing partner and you've then got to go, well, actually, this time we're going to do it differently? Or are you going out to a client before they've even got roles and saying, look, I want to introduce you to this service? Or is it something completely different? Because I'm trying to...
A bit of both, but no, the angle isn't that. The angle is, it starts with what are they trying to achieve? So, and what's been their experience of using the models that they've been using before? Because what we found out was, and Matt was only a little bit more experienced than me. He was pretty new to this as well. So we kind of learned as we went along. But what we found out was those clients that were getting what they wanted, when they wanted it, and they were having a good time doing it, or relatively, and they were using a contingent model, it was really difficult to convert them to retained because, well, why should they? And actually, we made the judgment call on those situations that we probably shouldn't, because the money's coming in and there isn't an issue. Why would we change it? The places where we found that the easiest conversions were 2 things. Firstly, where they weren't having a good time, right? They were saying, as soon as we started hearing people going, we need more CVs, this isn't working, or let's say this isn't working, so we need some more CVs, these candidates aren't good enough, we need more from you, we expect more from you. So in the end, we had like alerts to the age of positions that have been worked that then hadn't been filled. And those were the ones that we were going in saying, is this working for you, basically? Right. Are you getting what you want? They were then saying, no, we're not getting what we want. And we were saying, okay, that's not uncommon. this is why it happens. This is what we do to fix it. We'd like to do that with you. So that's the first situation.
Selling against
So
an
it doesn't.
actual need.
Yeah, it doesn't. Not necessarily. It's like even just past experience. And then to mitigate future experience.
I mean,
so
what I mean by
some of
need
them
is
were
more
just,
like pain. There's something there, right? You're dealing with, like I say, if someone's happy, going in and saying we're going to do it differently is, much of a muchness. Whereas then there's an actual.
Well, the second situation was that they were happy, but we weren't.
Okay.
So the clients were happy, but we were the margins were really bad for us. So we were actually, in line with our project, we were to cull those clients that weren't worth it for us. So it was either move to a model that's going to work for us, or we can't work with you anymore. Basically, it's not worth it. Or those people where we were spending inordinate amounts of time or lengths of time working on positions that then didn't result in a fee because the client would pull the job, or they'd change the brief, or they'd just mess us about basically. And so those were the ones that it wasn't worth us working on unless we converted it to a retained model. So we'd go along and say, is it working for you? They say, yes, great. Are you happy with what we're doing? Yes, we're delighted. Please keep doing it. But we then say, here's the problem. We'd like to, but it's not working for us. So
Louise, I
need to have
think
a conversation.
that is a different. I think that's a challenge in our industry for a lot of people is to, they put clients on a pedestal, right? And if a client's happy with them, they'll do whatever they need to do to keep that, because they're so frightened of competition eating up that opportunity. So the confidence to be able to say, I'm glad you're happy, but we're not. Again, it gives you it's coming from a position of strength, because they're saying they already like you. They're already, they're already happy with your, but that I can see that being in someone listening. They're like, oh God, imagine having that chat.
Yeah. I mean, it's not quite as, brutal as that. But that's the essence of what you're saying. I found that for me, and probably for you as well, selling is as much about empathizing with people and building rapport and tapping into the sort of, the desires as opposed to, tangible or fixed outcomes, of them and what they've got to achieve, as it is about anything else. And what I found was the more that I could get them to say how good we were and how much help it was and what it was doing for them and helping them get where they needed to go, that what we were doing at the moment, the better. And the more human I could explain, like, that's great. I get that's really working for you, but I've got a bit of a problem. Like, I want to carry on doing this for you. I really do. Like, I love working with you. I love it. And then I love doing this, love doing that. I love how we did this together. I love how we did this together. But I'm at risk every time we work together. And actually, if you look at the last 3 or 4 projects that we've worked on, only one of them has actually meant that I've been paid for the work that I've done, because you weren't quite sure what you wanted this time. And then you kind of paused that one. And I'd love to carry on doing what I'm doing, but actually my business is telling me it's not commercially viable. So I want to work out a way that enables me to carry on working with you, but also more effectively. And here's what it looks like. And then you don't kind of go, take it or leave it. It's this is how I'd like us to step into this relationship. You don't need to marry me straight away, but this is what I'm proposing in the first instance. Do you see what I mean?
Totally. So let's go on a little bit more of the journey then. So you and your colleague start to genuinely make change. You didn't stay at Airswift forever. So what was the catalyst for getting to the point where you felt like it was time for you to change?
Probably 2 things. One, we went through that transaction, and it was bumpy, as most of them are, and it was big firm, 2 big firms coming together. And at the time, what we'd managed to build was very attractive, because it had gone retained quite quickly and was generating a lot of revenue and was nice revenue, and we were getting up the value chain and getting into really meaty stuff. And so that got a bit scrapped over. And I felt a bit, like maybe this isn't the nicest of place for me to be in right now. No fault of either one of the businesses. It was just the process, I think. And so and that was the first thing. And then the second thing was, there's always like a little bit of a push and a bit of a pull, isn't there? I knew I wanted to find out how it was really done, because Matt and I absolutely love the guy to death. But we'd kind of made it up as we went along. And we were doing bits of consulting services. We'd sold a couple of comp and bend studies. We'd sold a talent mapping project. Like, neither of us knew how to do it or what we were really doing, but we did. And we pulled most of them off. Some of them we didn't. And I knew that I wanted to learn, like, right, okay, how do you do this properly? People do this really well. Like, how do they really do it? So I thought that was my opportunity to go and find out. So I moved. I moved to Armstrong Craven first, because that was the talent mapping and talent pipelining piece that was fascinating to me, that I didn't even know existed. And that's what they specialize in. So by history, legacy, they're a professional research firm. So historically, they do all the research for the Shrek firms. That's how they were born. And then they turned into a firm that does it directly with clients. And all their clients are the big enterprise firms, your AZs and GSKs. I was in the life sciences team, but also your Barclays and Bank of America, like, and the P&Gs and the big consumer goods firms, Nestle and so on. And so the stuff that they were doing with those businesses was totally different to anything I'd ever seen. So these businesses have got really sophisticated talent acquisition teams. Really, they're really good. Like, they're not just TA and HR that get in the way and are a pain in the arse. They're really, really good. Most of them are, all the executive teams like are ex-Shreks and ex-top tier executive search firms. So they know their stuff. But the thing is, they can't handle everything that gets thrown at them, and they are a fixed size. So they kind of need to be able to breathe with requirements, with project ramp-ups, with growth and contraction. And so that's where we came in. And so we would help them sometimes vertically, like with, we need this position filling completely. You need to execute the search against this from beginning to end. But sometimes in a different way. So we would support them with the front end of a project, and they would carry out the last two stages. So we do all the mapping, they then take it through shortlist and take it to hire. Or we take the first two stages and they take the last third. Or the other way around, they do the initial outreach because they get a great response. We'd then assess and shortlist and then get it over the line for them. And that was like genius. It's genius. It's so good. And then a separate to that, they do, standalone talent pipelining, succession pipelining, intelligence studies. And it's fascinating. Like, well, if you like that kind of stuff, I'm a bit of a geek with stuff like that. But yeah, it's very interesting.
So you went into that business. What did it feel like? A huge jump?
Oh my God, Sean, like, it couldn't have been more different. Like, you go into, we've come up through a similar route, a contingent route, and a contingent recruitment office, particularly in our day, when we were doing it, was noisy. It was busy. It was fun. It was pressurized, but it was also it was very social. And I don't know about you, but a lot of my life revolved around work, basically. It was everything for me too. And I'd go straight from work, Thursdays and Fridays, pretty much straight into the pub, spend the weekend relaxing, and then do it all again on Monday. And it couldn't have been more different from that. These guys are, the vast majority of the firm are researchers. And so they're hired, they're Oxbridge graduates, they're professional librarians, basically.
Right. Okay.
And you can hear a pin drop. It's beautiful. It's beautiful. And the stuff they do is absolutely incredible. But it's the exact opposite of the environment, of every environment I've been in. And the salespeople, and there are very few salespeople, there's just one per practice area, are remote, fully remote. And I'd never worked remotely before. Like, working from home was like, right, that's just dossing about. Like, that was no such thing as working from home in those days. So it was totally new. And I remember going to the office one day about, 3 weeks in, and the receptionist said, "Oh, hi, Louise, lovely to see you. Did you let us know that you were coming in today?" And I was like, "No, I just thought I'd come and work from here." "Oh, well, I don't think we have a desk for you." "Okay, I'll go home then." And so that's the way it went, So it was cool, and I learned loads and loads, but I knew that I'd underestimated how important it was, like, being surrounded by people that I'm listening to, learning from, having fun with, bouncing off. And so that was but it was a great experience, fantastic experience. I love the firm, they're amazing.
Remote work in that period, that was a rarity, right? So how did you, so you had the research team all sat in an office. Did you have a reporting line of salespeople that were all remote, and you met like on the
There
team?
was only four
how did-
salespeople, one
Right.
per practice area, and they reported direct to the CEO, who majority of the time was also remote.
So what were you using back then? Was it Zoom, or was it early days Zoom, or was it Skype?
Skype, but Skype mainly, but a lot of face to face,
Yeah.
like mainly face to face, which is great. And I loved getting out and seeing clients. I went all over the world with them because GSK was the main focus, and they were everywhere. I did 9 flights in 7 days. One of the trips, 2 of them were transatlantic. Like I did a lot of travel, lots and lots of travel, which is great. But then I had little kids at the time, tiny, and I never saw them.
Yeah.
So it's just different. Every business is different, isn't it?
So where did the idea, or when did the entrepreneurial flair come, and what? Tell us how that kicked off.
That totally happened by accident. I swore to God that I would never. Not that I'm religious, but I said I'm never gonna start my own business because both my parents had their own businesses, and I saw how hard it was, and so it was never going to be something that I did ever, until after the stint at Armstrong Craven, I did a short period with a firm called Six Group who do executive search, and they do it very well, and their process for search execution is lovely, and I learned loads there. But when I realized that wasn't my place either, like I beat myself up a lot because I felt like I'd made mistakes, and you look at that and think, God, did the wrong thing there. And especially having been quite a while with Air Swift, I thought, what's either wrong with me or what's wrong with my decision making? But I learned so much. Anyway, so I thought I'll take some time off, just chill out, and just not really think about what to do next. And then I got a couple of phone calls. One of them was from an ex-client who I was outside of restrictive covenants with, saying, will you do this piece of work? And I was like, well, I'm not working for anyone. He said, well, does that matter to you? And I said, no. He said, can you invoice me directly? Yes, fine. So did some search work. That was cool. One thing led to another there. And then the other thing was, Air Swift called me and said, will you do some work for us? Will you hire some people for us? So that kept me ticking around. That was nice. And the other thing that happened was a guy that I used to work with at Air Swift called me and said, I've moved to a different company. We need to be retained. It should be retained, but there's no retained work at all happening. And it really should be. Like, I don't know how to teach these people to do it. Can you come and teach us how to do it? And so I did all of those things. I did all of them. But I didn't.
How old are you?
I didn't accept a job. I just went and did it as a consultant. And that. Go on. Sorry.
How old are your children at this point?
Probably 5, 6, 6 and 11,
right.
Something
so
like that.
From not seeing a lot of them to suddenly being at home around them, I imagine.
Yeah.
So.
And that was really nice.
Yeah.
That was really nice. I remember the day I came home after deciding to take some time off and just being like, oh my God, I don't need to go anywhere tomorrow. And it felt really nice. So much daycare and, childminders. It's heartbreaking that. It was really, really difficult. So it was an absolute joy to be at home for a while and see them and hang out with them and not have to send them to childminders. Yeah.
And then you start doing some work. I imagine you're working from home at that point, doing these consulting gigs.
Yeah.
And the one where you've gone to did you go into the office of that?
I used to go into the offices and help people. Yeah. So I'd go and spend like a half a day or a day in different places. And so I did that piece of work for Fourth Line. They then started winning retained work. And then Andy Morell at Oscars. Yeah. He gave me a call and said, I'm mates with Kieran. Tell me what you're doing. I'm interested. So I did a piece for him, and then did a piece for a firm called Evolution in Warrington. That was where I met Jordan. And it was fun. Like, it was challenging because there was a lot of like quite closed minds to it. There was like a chink of, oh, this sounds good, but I'm not sure we're going to be able to do it or it's going to be possible. But those people with open minds, Andy Brack was fantastic at Evolution, and Kieran at Fourth Line were very, were real advocates of, we've seen this work, so it can work and we will make it work. And so it did. It did. And people just started winning retainers. And I used to go out with them and sit with them with a client and pose as a member of the team and just be there in the background, like, now say this and that, and prep them for the meeting. And we did. And we won loads and loads and loads of retainers in all different industries, in all different locations. And It was really fun. But then COVID happened.
Right.
And not only could we not go out and see clients and do that anymore, but I was due to go and do a team in Austin in Texas and help them, move to Retained, and I couldn't go. And they said to me, would you record some videos or do some stuff over Zoom with us? Because Zoom had just kind of
Yeah, it just exploded, didn't it?
been a thing. And I was like, yeah, I think I could, And that was when I found Sam Ovens, our friend, and I realized I could actually turn this into something and turn it into a program, because what I was doing with everybody was basically the same. It was exactly the same. Do this and then do this and then do this. And if this happens, do this. And if this happens, do that. So I was able to put it into its format. And, thank you to Ben Brevitt, Claire's husband, who introduced me to Sam, and who helped me film it in COVID in this barn in near where they were in East Shropshire at the time. And we filmed it all, and it was all bootstrapped. I borrowed 10 grand off my brother to pay for Kit and Ben and Claire to help me script it, and that was the first version of the course as the format
the same
that it
time
is in
me.
now.
Only I did it in a room in a flat in London, just on a laptop, and it was like very basic. There was no editing costs at all. But I wasn't doing like the bespoke one-on-one stuff. I went straight into program. And it was before before knowing Sam, I had someone who'd already been in that world who gave me some advice. But it was literally, I'd spent probably 2.5 years talking about a course, a training program on branding, on personal branding. And Hishem, who everyone knows of, worked for me, and I used to talk about doing it with him. And then when he left in 2019, a year before the pandemic, he set up his own Azuz branding, which is a personal branding. And I've said this a few times, like, I was really, at first, I was like, he just took my idea, but then he didn't. He did it in his own way, and I was really proud. But when I watched how he did it, and I was like, that's not how I was going to do it. It was completely different, actually, than what I had. So he'd done his own version. And then everything just, there was always another reason not to do it. There's always another client. We're always busy, a bit like you, bespoke. We're working with clients on the ground. And then when the pandemic hit, it was like, there's no more excuses. Like, it's time.
No.
And,
yeah, exactly. Yeah. It's like, this is the perfect time. Yeah. It's almost like we were gifted that time, isn't it?
Yeah, the world was online, and, I did a free webinar and I had over 800 people sign up to it in a week. And I was like,
we were similar.
I've got to do this now. I didn't realize it was exactly like almost exactly the same time. So that's awesome. So how did that then evolve? So I can imagine exactly what went on because I've been through it.
I mean, it just blew up. Like, you from what happened to you, that's basically what happened to us. Like, it just went crazy. And at the time, I had been talking to an old colleague of mine who used to work with us at Air Swift, Sarah Chester, who had gone kind of sideways into marketing and digital marketing from recruitment. And she'd helped me kind of bootstrap a website together. And the more that it started to work, and we started to put some, posts up and ads out and things like that. And I did Hisham's course and started posting on LinkedIn. And the more customers we started to work with, and the more they were like, yeah, oh my God, you just do this and it works. And we ended up with like the first video testimonials of people saying that it works. And she was like, right, the model is we then feed that into the marketing machine, and then, and this is what happens. And so gradually I said, I can't offer you much of a salary, but would you like to come and, do something together? So she did. And at the time as well, Claire, Ben's husband, who'd helped me film it, was kind of a bit disillusioned with her work, and she was kind of helping me in the background, looking after people and processes and stuff. And so she was doing more and more in the background. And I'd also got my eye on a few people that I'd taught how to sell retainers that were moving up into executive search and C-suite search and thinking they could be coaches one day. Like, I need to leave them a few years to keep growing. But I had my eye on them. And Jordan was one of those. So I knew that I had I didn't like persuade him into anything. It was just, he got to a stage where he was like, yeah, I'm really interested in what you do. He started helping me in the community, and then eventually, came on board as a coach. And that's how the current team was born. And it's still the same team, 5 years later, it's still the same people, with a few extra waifs and strays that we've taken in and
But for people
nurtured,
that don't
and they're
realise
great.
there might be a few people listening who don't quite understand what we're talking about in terms of the model, right? So,
As a seasoned recruiter, you know that a CV never tells the full story about someone. Candidates share what really matters during conversations. They tell you on calls, in the interview, over email, what they're motivated by, their salary expectations, plans to relocate, etc. Most of the detail ends up buried in notes, forgotten. It's not on a resume. Now, our headline sponsor, Atlas CRM, changes all of that. It's the first AI-native recruitment platform built to eliminate admin. It captures every single conversation automatically that you guys have and turns it into something you can use. They've got something called Magic Search, which is now out, right? And what you can do is ask it questions like, who talked about wanting a 4-day week? Or who've mentioned they're open to relocating next year? It searches across your entire database and pulls the answers instantly. So it's not about keyword guessing and digging through old notes. You get insights from real conversations, not limited by CV fields and coded filters. Atlas also makes BD easier. With their opportunities tracker, you can track and grow with client relationships powered by generative AI. And that's built into an existing workflow. So you don't need any extra tools. It's in the CRM. If you want visibility of your business, Atlas's smart dashboards give you clear view of the pipeline across your business. And it's not theory, right? Atlas customers have reported over 40% EBITDA growth and 80% increase in monthly billings from adopting the platform. Atlas is built for agencies who want to grow without adding more manual work. So don't miss the future of recruitment. If you're sat there thinking I need to bolt AI into my platform today, don't even bother. Just get started with Atlas and unlock your exclusive listener offer at www.recruitwithatlas.com/therag.
all right, let's get back to the show. Essentially, you've gone from sitting on site, flying to Austin, whatever, running a bespoke training program to teach contingent recruiters a retained model, and realized, as I did, that actually the fundamentals are the exact same no matter if you're recruiting pharmaceuticals in Nebraska or accounting finance in Sydney. It doesn't change, right?
100%. Absolutely.
And we're the same. People say, oh, but I'm not sure this will work for us and we're different. I'm like, no. The fundamentals of winning on LinkedIn are not about the nuances of your sector. That's the bit you add, because you should have that knowledge. So we've both been able to give clients all over the world a model, a simple, repeatable process that they then apply their own experience, their own market, their network, everything to that wins business, right? That makes them money. That in your case, it wins the retainer. For me, it gets them on the radar and opens the door. And I think the combination is incredibly powerful. Like you're doing it yourself. You're not just selling on the phone. You're building a brand that people recognize and trust. So, and then that decision to realize it's one process is how you've then scaled globally, like me, right? And you can have 5 recruiters in America on the same call as 5 in Australia, and it doesn't really, time zone, that won't work, but you get my point. So how many have you worked with to date? So we're mid 2026, roughly. I've looked at the numbers, but I want to hear it from you. What?
I don't know. It's got to be somewhere between 1,500 and 2,000 people.
Right. Is that agencies or individuals?
No, individuals.
Right.
I reckon. I mean, I'm not a numbers person, but it's got to be about that.
I'll tell you today, I think we're about to hit the 1,000 agencies we've worked with on the bootcamp today.
Wow. So maybe it's more people and maybe that is agencies. I don't know.
For me, it's 998 was yesterday, and we've brought 2 in. I'm pretty confident there's 2 today. So the 1,000 companies since.
Congratulations.
Thank you. Yeah, I'm pretty excited by that. But then agents, I think it's probably close to 8,000 recruiters or something across that. Because in the early days, I don't know about you. In the early days,
our numbers aren't a million miles away. When you talk about what you've done, it's pretty similar. So maybe it's more. But then I think we've got. Are the price points the same?
Very similar. Yeah, very similar.
Yeah. Okay. Well, maybe it is. Maybe it is agencies.
What you think of this then? And I want to get more into the retained stuff in a minute. But one thing I learned through our experience was, in the early days of selling training programs, I got really excited by brand names, Robert Walters, Adecco. We work with some of these big companies. And don't get me wrong, we've had some amazing results with these companies. And it's not specifically those 2, but I thought, more users, the better. I'll give you a deal where you can have 50 people go through my training. What we realized was actually, from an employee mindset perspective, putting too many people on a training program that they've not been brought into the sales process and are being told to do it actually doesn't work out that well. And actually, I'd rather work with one founder who's putting their own money in and is absolutely going to make it work than 50 people that were told to do it by someone in a corporate business. And I mean, it's not like you have to choose one or the other, but what's been your experience of that?
Yeah, definitely. Overwhelmingly similar.
Yeah.
I don't think I was ever attracted to the big brands to begin with, though. I think I almost I've always preferred, but even in my recruitment career, I preferred to work with the underdogs. And the good ones, though, the upcoming ones, the hypos.
I think it's more the scalable, like, if you think about like the SaaS model,
maybe
it's about seats, right?
Yeah.
So I remember Odro talked about winning Robert Walters and Robert Half and you're like, wow, the amount of seats they can win in that business is insane. That could triple their business overnight. So I was like, we signed a deal with Robert Walters that got 250 of their team on our training in a year, right? Oh. And financially, it was a really good deal for both parties. And yeah, I was like, so I kind of thought, if I can crack more of them, like, the scalability in it. But actually, 100%, we're a small business, and actually aligned to founders who are very similar has always been better. It's always been more fun, and you get better.
Yeah, I think I thought I didn't want to scale, basically. I think I was averse to scaling. I knew that I wanted it to have a critical mass and a momentum, the business, that would, to a certain extent, run itself. That was where I knew I wanted to get to. But I didn't have I didn't need it to be up here in terms of revenue or size, or as soon as I put the core pieces of the team together, I was like, yeah, this is it. We're going to do it with this team. And we're going to make it profitable, and we're going to keep it fun, and we're going to do a really good job and be known for doing a fantastic job every single time. And if we can't do the job fantastically well, then we're not going to do it. And that's what we'll become known for, not just go really big and look for the big ones. So we did a bit of a project on enterprise sales, because it's very different, right? Selling to big businesses is quite different. But then, and we won a few. So, we've worked with Manpower. We did several pieces of work with them, but my experience is exactly the same as you. Like, these people have been told to do the course. They don't really know what it is. Their commitment levels are low. Their overall drive to do it is low. Half of them leave partway through the training, so you don't get the continuity. So I found it frustrating. The team found it frustrating. And we said, yeah, we'll probably not do that again. So I think largely we've always been focused on doing a great job with the small or upcoming or growing firms. And that's where it's worked the best. And that's where people have, like you say, they engage more, they're receptive to it, they stay, they're more likely to stay in the same firm for long enough to actually see it happen. And so that's still the same for us now.
And when it comes to the changes in I suppose the more I get the exact same thing. I'm just seeing if you see it. So the more people you work with, the more retained recruiters there are on the market. Does that become an objection? Like, everyone's doing it now. Like, why would because I get people say, well, won't everyone know how to do this LinkedIn stuff? And I'm like, well, actually, I've worked with 1,000 companies. There is 9,000 in London alone. Like, we're not even scratching the surface globally. The opportunity is so big. And I know on LinkedIn, I think it's 80% of the views are generated by 1% of the LinkedIn population. So the opportunity is so great.
Yeah.
You ever get that kind of objection? And
do you know what? We actually don't. And I think partly the reason that we don't get it is because people aren't pitching against retained. When they come to us, they're like, I need to convert these clients from contingent, because they're not being sold retainers, mostly. Occasionally we get the odd one saying some of my competitors are winning retained in my market, but that means that they just go, I need to do this course, because otherwise I'm going to get left behind.
What about thinking about it's an exec search firm's
Yeah,
skill and
God, you get
thinking
that.
we're
I get
not,
that all the time.
yeah. To talk me
That's
through that.
probably, there's two main objections. One is it won't work in my market,
Yeah, we get
you
that.
know, which we've talked about. It's just absolute bullshit, basically, if you don't mind my
Yeah,
language.
it's fine. Yeah.
And then, you know, the evidence couldn't be more overwhelming. You just need to look at all the people that, you know, you've worked with and I've worked with in the various weird and wonderful locations and industries that we've worked with them in. And it still fucking works. Doesn't
Yeah.
matter where they are and what industry they're doing. So, you know, that's absolutely a misnomer. And then the second one is that it's for executive positions. You know, it's for senior, and you know, I'm not working at a senior enough level for this to be viable. And again, that's just absolute bullshit. You know, the first projects that we converted at Swift were like 50k engineering positions. They weren't senior at all. One of the pieces of work that I did when I was kicking around, not really knowing what I was going to do next, and having a bit of time off, was for a friend who had a call center, and he was banging his head against a brick wall trying to get telesales people. So I went in, you know, what's going on, what's working, what's not working, what methods are you using? I'm using all the local agencies, same old contingent thing, getting a few CVs, then they get bored and they don't send any, and they're mostly shit, and we hire them and then they leave, and, you know, it's just the same old, right? Can you fix it? And I said, well, yeah, but this is what we're going to need to do, and this is how we're going to need to do it, and I'm going to need some financial commitment to be able to make sure that I can put the time in to do this. And so they said, sure, no problem. What do you need it to look like? It needs to look like this. Okay, cool. And they were like 25k telesales people. So and that is evidence across everybody that we work with. It doesn't matter whether they're, you know, recruiting mining engineers in, you know, some of the lowest paid regions in the world, or whether they're recruiting, you know, highly qualified like perception engineers. We just did a head of perception for an autonomous vehicle company in San Francisco, and that's, you know, 450, 500k base salary stuff. It doesn't matter. The principle is exactly the same. If they're getting what they want when they want it, and it's an enjoyable process at the moment, they're probably not going to go down a retained route. But if they're not, and a lot of people in either both ends of the market and in the middle aren't, well, then it makes sense for them to work on a different model.
What I see at the minute as well is people have teams around them that are incredibly busy on contingent work. And they're not making that much profit. Their teams are really, and I always say, like, what percentage of your roles do you actually fill? And they don't know. And I'm like, all right, go away and find that out for me. Come back. I had a guy today literally come back to me. He goes, 15%.
Yeah, but that's not uncommon.
No, so he said 100 roles it takes his team to do 15 deals. And he's got a team of 13 people running around, working on all this shit. And I said, well, if you got that to a retained model, even if it was just a deposit, like a small deposit to lock a client in,
it's going to push up that percentage.
Well, you're probably going to eradicate 70 roles. So you might only have 30 roles because they're not going to pay it. He said, he's like, I don't think they'll pay. I was like, cool, that's a good thing. Get 30 jobs and fill 29 of them, 28 of them. And you've just gone from 15 deals to 28 deals with half a team. You don't need the people.
Yeah.
Did you ever see that when a client cracks it? Actually,
all the time. It's the first place we
down.
start. That is the place we start with the program. That's exactly where we start.
Yeah.
That is exactly where we start, because I don't think people really realize that what they're doing they don't really fully realize what they're doing on a contingent basis. You know, we just do it. We just do it. That's what we're programmed to do. It's what we're trained to do. That's what we've grown up to do. You know, you work on this many jobs, you get this much out, and it's a numbers game, and that's what you do. And nobody in all of the time that I spent in contingent ever looks at that and says, that doesn't make any fucking sense. Why are we spending 3/4 of our time, if not more, especially in a case like that, unproductively?
Yeah.
It just doesn't make sense. And sometimes people do, and they'll go, oh, we'll just try and get exclusivity, or an exclusivity, I can talk about it if you want me to, but it is the worst of all worlds. But they don't spend the time analysing that and working out what they could do with smaller number of positions that are actually committed, and therefore less people, less wasted time. Or equally, they could do as many and fill them all. Because the fill rate changes completely.
I'm just not a believer. Yeah, I'm a big believer that in the future, and I'm sure you've picked this up on my external chat, but you don't need that many people. I'm not saying you might want that, but you need to have. You're better off having 5 people with who are full of committed vacancies than 15 people that are working a lot of stuff they're not going to make any money from. Like,
yeah, totally.
Yeah,
I think sometimes people come to me and they say, "Well, I can't. You know, I'm not prepared to walk away." You know, I get that. I'm not prepared to walk away from it if they say no. And I have to go through this process of, well, what are you walking away from, right? You're basically walking away from an 85% chance of spending time on something that results in nothing. Why wouldn't you walk away from that? Like, why would you walk towards that?
But also, do you not think I think that elevates you as a professional to the other person.
Of course.
If you say to a client, confident, I'm really sorry, but you know what? Like, I'm not prepared to do this. These are the reasons. This is how I will work with you. Like, even if they say no, I think that they're going to be like, kudos to that person. Like, you know.
Yes, totally. And it is all in the way you frame it, because that's true. And the essence of what you're doing, of course, is exactly that. But the way that we describe it to the client is to say, I don't mind you carrying on working contingently. That's fine. Go right ahead. But what you've told me is, this is what's happening. You're going to market, you're getting a flow of activity, you're not getting the candidates that you want, the quality is shit, it's taking you a lot of time, you're really frustrated, and every time you go to market, it's the same thing. So if you want to carry on doing that, I understand. I mean, I kind of don't, but I understand that's absolutely fine. If you get stuck, and if you change your mind, you know where I am. I know I can't do what I need to do to change that for you without some financial commitment. And I want to do it. And here are the evidence that shows me that I've done it for your competitors. And I'd like to show you just on this one project. But if they eventually say no, they don't want to, then that's fine. Best of luck. Wish them well. Check in on them in a few weeks' time. Because if they were getting what they wanted when they wanted it and it was all going hunky-dory, they wouldn't even be on your doorstep in the first place.
No. But my point is, in that scenario, the way you just handled it, I think if I was the client, I'd be like, Louise is quite impressive. Even if I might say no to Louise for now, but in my head, I'm like, you've gone up a little bit of a notch in my estimation, I think, rather than...
Yeah, totally, because I'm not prepared to waste my time on something that's likely to be...
The recruiter probably thinks the client's going to go, well, I'm not working with you then. I'm like, I just don't think that's how people... The psychology is not how people operate.
No, they get it. The thing is, we haven't been taught how to explain what we want to do and why we want to do it this way and exactly what we're going to do.
Because most people haven't been taught
that's the piece that people struggle with. It's the explanation, because they end up with I can't afford to waste my time on this, or we're going to put more of this in, or we're going to do more interviewing. The client doesn't care about that. No. They don't care about any of that. It's got to always be anchored back to, you aren't getting the result that you're looking for at the moment. This is the way that we're going to solve it, exactly piece by piece. And this is how it works, why it works, and evidence that it works. And here's the logic behind, you've been doing this and it isn't working, and now I'd like to show you this on just this one piece, just once. And if you don't like it, you never have to do it again. Yeah. That explanation, then I can only walk away from a client or let a client go if I know that I have explained it to the absolute best of my ability. Because we had a head of talent acquisition do our program not long ago. And fantastic. She's from one of the big tech software firms. And she came on the course because the recruitment agency that she used to work with hired her. They poached her, basically. And the director of the firm had just bought a package from us. And she was one of the people on the program. And when we asked people at the beginning, why do you want to do this? She said, well, I'll be honest, I don't. I can't think of anything worse than learning how to sell retainers. I've shot every single recruiter that's come in my door, pitching a retainer down, and it's not something I've ever believed in or ever do. So we were like, wow, great, fantastic, this is going to be really fun. But we kind of, and the team flagged it, and I watched it back. I was like, oh Jesus, this is going to be fun. Anyway, but we're like, just trust the process, just put her through the process, and we know what we do. And so I did. And we got to the third main coaching session. And at the end of it, she said, I've got to tell you something. In all my years, and I've been in TA all of my career, and she was my age and very senior, nobody has ever explained the retained process properly to me. And I can't believe that nobody has actually explained exactly what they want to do and why they want to do it. And there is no way that I would have shut them down if they had. She's a testimonial on our website. She's fully retained. She now leads the retained division in that firm. So, but the message really is that if she didn't know what it really was and why and what it looks like, then fucking bet that nobody else does. Like, it's our job to explain properly what we want to do and why. And if they still say no, they don't, and overcome any of their worries and, you know, their concerns. But if they really don't want to do it after that, that's fine, let them go. But don't just go and go, I need somebody up front. Yeah. Or in order to, you know, do this properly, you're going to have to pay me. Like, that is not good enough. It's got to be better than that. It's got to be more logical and more descriptive. And they've got to really fully understand why you want to do it and what you're going to do.
I mean, I couldn't agree more. I kind of said it jokingly as you were talking a minute ago, like, I don't think people have been taught how to explain anything in our industry. Like, I genuinely think it's like, get on the phone and go, and we've both been there.
Yeah.
And it happens by osmosis. Every recruiter's favourite fucking word since COVID. You can't not work in an office without osmosis. But the truth is, it's never been like sit down and properly explain why anything happens. It's like you just keep learning as you go. Part of the beauty of our industry is why, you know, done is better than perfect. Build the bike while you're riding it kind of concept. Without that, probably we wouldn't have that entrepreneurial flair. But at the same time, everything you just said makes sense to me. And I do want to go back though, because you said a minute ago, exclusive is the worst of both worlds, which I don't think we need to spend forever on this. But I'll just go back to, I mean, and again, I'm looking at this as an ex-contract recruiter, you know, £500 to £1,200 a day contract recruiter in London. Exclusivity was what I went for because it was like, I was the only one. It was like a retainer in my world, right? So I never did perm. Are we referencing only perm when you say
only
that?
perm? Yeah.
Right, okay. So talk me through
definitely.
on a high level why it's not good enough.
The problem with exclusivity is the client quite often it happens because it's something difficult, it's something tricky, or we know that, you know, we want to put significant effort into it, right? And that's why we want to eliminate the competition, because we can't put significant effort into the same principle as a retainer. Yeah. We can't put significant effort into it if there's loads of other people working on it, because the chances of us filling it are low. Yeah. So it gets deprioritized, right? So we need it to be prioritized. We need it to be higher up the list. So that's why we ask for exclusivity. So they say, oh, well, we wouldn't normally, you know, just go with one. Yes, but, so they feel like they're taking a risk. So they feel like they're giving you something, right? We're giving you this opportunity. We are giving you exclusivity. We then grateful. Oh, thank you so much. Thank you. Amazing. We then put all of our time and energy and effort into it because it's exclusive. And we've got this greatest gift from our client. And we're like working our backsides off. But there's absolutely nothing to stop them saying, yeah, thanks so much, but actually we decided to do this. Or, yeah, we're going to interview those, but after we get back off holiday. Or, we just haven't quite got the feedback from the manager yet. He's just thinking about it. Or, yeah, we're going to make the offer, but it's going to be this much, not this much. There is nothing to stop them, meaning the fucking project goes completely sideways and we end up with nothing. And yet we've put all our time into it. So it's the worst of both worlds. We have no actual commitment to them or from them to financially or to a process. Yeah. And yet we are absolutely obliged to put all of our everything into it because they've given us this greatest gift of exclusivity. So we are more at risk on a position like that than any contingent position, because we can just, you know, walk away and say, well, it's contingent, just not bothered. There was no commitment anyway.
Yeah. Oh, look, I was already in my head seeing that picture, but I'm glad you've explained it. Again, explanation is key. Explaining things, people are listening and going, Louise makes incredible sense. Right. So what I want to get into now is, for the final few minutes, is more about, like, I think, like I say, we when I was on your show, a lot of what you said was that, like, we're kind of saying the same thing. The market's changing. I believe that the industry's splitting. AI's only amplifying the change. And I genuinely believe that there's two types of destination for recruitment agencies, and the majority of agencies are in the middle right now. And that, I call it trusted advisor and a commodity supplier. So from your perspective, what do you think's happening?
Yeah, absolutely. It's like black and white as far as I'm concerned. And all the numbers show it. And as you know, I did a post on it, posting the figures from all the contingent agencies. You know, your Hayes and your Robert Halfs and your Manpowers are all down, and your Heidricks and Russell Reynolds and your Shreks are all up. Yeah. And that's no coincidence. Like, they're providing a service that can't be replaced by AI, not just a service, but multiple services. It's the trusted advisor that you speak of. It's the partner. It's the advising on market trends, conditions, individual nuances of a senior executive through an interview process that no AI would ever pick up. It's all of the stuff that they do as true consultants that we know AI is great, but we know it's not perfect and it can't replace a lot of that stuff. And that's why they're not being affected by it. Their revenues are not affected by it. And yet the Hayes and the Robert Halfs, can people get CVs quickly at pace? Can they get those CVs formatted? Can they do a quick sweep of the market to get, 200 people in that and whittle it down to 5 and interview 3 of them? Yes, absolutely. Now they can very easily, very cheaply.
It's gonna get easier as well.
And they are being affected by that.
It's going to get
so
easier.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. People have got to either get really good at the latter and putting their processes in through such sophisticated automation and AI that means they can do that cheaper and faster than anybody else, or get really good at being a partner to their clients and providing the kind of stuff that AI can't provide.
Yeah. And actually charging a premium for the things there might not be. I look at it like the reason why someone spends the money with a Shrek firm is because that role is so important to get right. Yeah. So important.
Yes, I don't disagree with you, but it isn't necessarily that it's a role that's important to get right. It's just any business critical problem that isn't being solved, basically. That could be a collection. It could be like, 25 software engineers that they need tomorrow that isn't being solved by, AI, that they can't work out why or what the solution is to. Or it could be, very specific data that, sometimes it's things like LTIs or bonus packages that are paid to very specific types of people that they need to attract, and they need to understand that, and AI is not giving it to them, or they can't get it from the generic places. So any kind of business problem that isn't being solved by all the things that are at their disposal at the moment are opportunities for us to provide a solution to, and that's what professional services are, right? And that's what these consulting firms are doing.
Agreed. What I was going to say is just, if you think about like the importance of an executive role, some people might say, well, maybe the roles at my level aren't as important. Like they're just not. And I do think if a role is not that important, pickers and packers or whatever, yeah, I think it will go. Like it will from a pure AI. But when at all levels of the food chain in a big organization, there's really important roles. It doesn't have to be a C-level exec for that role to be really critical and important. So it's about being proud of the niche you operate in, I think, and wanting to just get really sophisticated in that one space. It's funny because it's a completely different scenario, right? But I bought a property in the Middle East 12 months ago, right? A place called Ras Al Khaimah, which is an hour north of Dubai. I was looking at moving out there with my family. Wasn't going to happen. I'd already earmarked the money to buy like a villa and put the kids through private school. It wasn't going to happen. So I'm like, I've got this money. I love the Middle East. I'm out there like 5 times a year with work. I'm like, I'm going to buy a flat on the water, brand new development, facing into the new casino, the Wynn, which is from the US, the only casino with a license in the whole of the Middle East. I'm like, this is going to skyrocket. I can put it on Airbnb. I can stay there with my family. It's retirement home for me and my wife. Anyway, I bought it a year ago. And then the development just kept kicking on. And then I got the nod that the keys were going to be handed over 2 days before the first bomb dropped in Iran in 2018.
Oh, man.
So anyway, I decided before I even got the keys, it probably wasn't the right investment because Airbnb has been destroyed, and the desire for me and my family to stay there is gone, for at least for a while. So I was like, you know what? I don't need it. Luckily, because the market is such a strong part of the world, the property it would have grown serious value in a year if it wasn't for the war, but it had maintained and slightly grown in value, which is cool. So anyway, long story short, I sold it. But in the UAE, when you sell to a mortgage buyer, the mortgage provider issues a check, a physical manager's check for the money that they want to give you, right? I'm not a UAE resident. I don't have a UAE bank account. I was about to put, the whole point was put the flat through a company, open a bank account, all that was going to happen. Anyway, I pulled the plug on it. So why I'm telling you this story is AI was my advisor through this process, right? How the hell do I cash a check in the Middle East when I'm not there? So I've got an accountancy firm that run our Hoxo's accounts. They're headquartered in Dubai. the founder I've worked with for 10 years. I managed a legal document. He would go and bank it. No problem. He takes it to the bank. No. Anti-money laundering, no chance he's going to cash it. Doesn't matter how legal this document is, they're not taking it. Anyway, every single thing on AI, told me I have to go to the UAE. I have to fly there. I have to land. I have to open a tourist account. I have to physically input this check. Hopefully it'll get accepted. One call to an FX guy I know, 10 minutes, I'm in touch with another company, an escrow company, who are like, this is exactly what we specialize in. Like, within 7 days, they've set me up a bank account through their portfolio. The check's been deposited. Like, solved. I was literally about to fly myself out.
Such a good example.
Yeah, and I'm like, AI could not get that. It didn't have that. Whereas one guy in London was like, I know the person for you. And I was like, it made me think about our industry and like, if I just led down the AI route, I would be on a plane to the UAE now this week. I was going to even be able to cash a check. So don't listen to me for any property advice, but it does. it feels very relevant. Like, I'm sure the escrow company use AI. I'm sure they're powered by AI in so many ways, but they've been incredible at what they've done. And, the recommendation was great. Louise, I could talk to you all day.
Likewise.
I think personally, it's the most exciting time for our industry ever. I think it's the most exciting time to be alive ever. And with great opportunity comes risk, and there's challenges and things that were never here before. But if you look at it with a glass half full, it's a great time to be around. What do you think? Like, what's your vision for the future of the industry? How do you feel about it?
I completely agree with you about our industry. Finally. I feel like I've been banging this drum for so long. And yes, some people listen, some people realize, and that those advocates, those pockets of that advocacy that have made the changes in the businesses that, I've been able to affect over the years have been great. But finally, there's a compelling reason to move in this direction. And it isn't just a compelling reason, there's a big push factor as well as a pull factor now. And so I think it's absolutely the most exciting time for our industry, for me and my area of expertise and my passion anyway. And it's similar for you. So I completely agree. I'm a very positive person. People, some people would say maybe, relentlessly, but I don't know how to be any other way. That's the way, I've grown up, and I am grateful that I'm in this place right now when this is happening, because it's going to be so interesting to see what happens next. So interesting. We see the change that's happening across the big agencies. It's going to have such a big knock-on effect to clients, to smaller agencies, to smaller businesses. It's never been easier to set up a business, and I love the fact that these people that are now setting up businesses and are establishing themselves, especially as this kind of firm, they've got great subject matter expertise. They're fantastic advisors. They're that guy that know that shit that AI doesn't, right? Yeah. And they can now set a business up so easily and provide that service themselves without some big company taking a huge cut from them. Is really exciting. So I'm here for it.
Same. And if anyone wants to find out more about what you're here for and how you can help, I imagine LinkedIn's the best place to get you, and I'll take you. It is.
I'm all over LinkedIn. I'm sorry if you see me a lot, or us a lot, but retrainedsearch.com is the website, and I'm Louise Archer at Retrained. So please feel free to drop me a message, reach out. I love talking about this stuff and can talk about it all day. So yeah, please get in touch.
Amazing. Louise, thanks for being so candid, and I'm super excited to see what's possible for you in the future.
Oh, likewise. Thank you for having me, Sean. It's great.
Pleasure. Thanks again for listening to today's episode of the RAG podcast. If you haven't already, please do subscribe wherever you listen to this show. As the more subscribers we get, the more people will listen and the more recruitment owners we can help. As a recruitment founder, you must know that things are changing. AI is everywhere. Cold outreach is getting harder, and job boards, well, they're not what they used to be. But personally, Despite the negativity, I believe the future is the greatest opportunity of our lifetime in recruitment, because for the first time ever, a founder with 5 recruiters with a clear niche and the right systems can build the kind of influence, reach, and profitability that used to take 500 recruiters and a global office network. The agencies that are winning right now aren't necessarily the biggest, but they are the most visible, the most trusted, and the ones building inbound demand. At Hoxo, we're working with clients who are running multiple 6 and 7 figures in net profit, outperforming the negative noise and headlines. So, to explain what these guys are doing, I've created a brand new free masterclass video for RAG listeners. In this video, it's less than 10 minutes long. I'm going to show you what these businesses are doing differently from the rest. So the link's in the description. Fill in the form, watch the video, and see exactly how this system that these clients are using could work for your agency. Good luck.